Hello, and welcome to Real Talk with Rachel. Today I'm talking about living in a world that isn't made for neurodiverse people and how we can make it more welcoming and supportive of people whose brains work differently. Recently, I was at a restaurant with a group of writers. Everybody was talking. The volume in the restaurant quickly became a dull roar. When this happens, my hearing shuts down. I have excellent hearing, but I cannot hear the person next to me or across from me ask a question. I have to ask them to repeat the question, sometimes more than once, which makes me feel anxious and even more overwhelmed, which makes me notice that the food smells are really, really strong, almost suffocating, which makes me wonder if I remembered to lock my hotel room before I came out here, which makes me wonder the same thing again and again and again, which makes me think I need to go back right now and check, which makes me remember I'm in the middle of a networking dinner. This is a professional thing. People will absolutely think it's weird, and by extension, I'm weird, if I suddenly jump up and make my exit in the middle of a conversation I can't hear, which makes me notice the room is really crowded. How am I even going to make it out of here alive? Which makes me start feeling unsafe and triggers the onset of a panic attack. These kinds of things usually end with panic, a shadow of failure, and residual shame, which is why I don't engage in those kinds of things very often. I prefer small gatherings with people who are talking at a normal volume and questions I can hear. This is a tiny little picture of what it's like living with sensory overload and two of its favorite cousins, anxiety and obsessive compulsive disorder. I've learned to hide my neurodiversities well. But should I? The truth is, we don't live in a world that's made for people whose brains work differently than what was long ago established as neurotypical. Actually, long ago it was called normal, which is kind of awful because it means people who don't think and operate like what was normal weren't normal. Who wants to be not normal? My home is filled with neurodiverse people. Anytime we go out on a family gathering, it's very apparent to me that we're still not living in a world that's all that easy for neurodiverse people. We've had to carve out some spaces of our own. Before we go much farther, I should define neurodiversity. It encompasses a wide range of neurological differences, including but not limited to autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, dyslexia, sensory processing disorders, including sensory overload. Some consider OCD and anxiety to be neurodivergent as well. These are all natural variations in how the brain works. Surprise! Not all brains work the same. Neurodivergent people face a variety of challenges, including a lack of understanding and awareness. Many people have opinions about the way all kids should act. I know because I'm a parent of neurodivergent kids, or they hold misconceptions and stereotypes about neurodiverse people, which can lead to stigmatization and marginalization. There are also educational challenges. My kids with ADHD have to stay still for 7 hours a day and focus when the clock is ticking very loudly up on the wall. How do they do the impossible? There are also employment issues. Only one of my kids is old enough to work, and he has a wonderful employer for now. But what about later? How many employers are set up to work with neurodivergent people? How many amazing discoveries and solutions are we missing because not everyone knows how to work with someone on the autism spectrum? There's also social isolation. Many neurodivergent people have trouble maintaining social relationships because of the ways their brains work. Sometimes they don't know how to communicate. Sometimes they're not sure how to even build a meaningful connection. And then there's sensory overload, which I highlighted earlier. The world is loud and bright and crowded. We need sensory-friendly spaces that aren't always loud and bright and crowded. So what are some things we can do to foster a more inclusive world for neurodivergent people? Well, I don't have all the answers, but maybe we could start by listening to neurodivergent people. Give them a platform, amplify their voices, let them tell their stories, let them offer their solutions, give them decision-making power on things that directly affect them, like policy development and educational reforms and workplace accommodations. Listen to what they have to say about how to better shape inclusive practices. And it's worth saying, we're not all the same, which means the sample size needs to be large and broad. and the conversation needs to be ongoing. Ask an easy question. What can we do to make this a little easier for you? How can we help you be successful? What are we missing? If I'd been asked those questions before I went to the restaurant and ended the night in a panic attack on my way to a migraine, I would have said, let's find a small corner, maybe outside or maybe somewhere with low lighting, a good distance from the kitchen and the bathrooms, 4 or 5 people around the table, no music, only conversation. We'll eat and we'll talk. Then we'll trade tables and talk some more. Let's consider sensory issues. Acknowledge that some experiences are harder for some than others. Seek to understand why some individuals might pull out noise-canceling headphones when they're walking through a crowded school hallway or a loud conference gathering. Let's do our best to support each other and recognize that we're all doing the best we can, and that's enough. That's it for today's Real Talk with Rachel. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for videos about books and writing and more videos like this. Thanks for watching.